My name is Kyle Mao. My family has just moved to Portugal on the D8 Digital Nomad visa, and this is the checklist. I'm going to walk you through exactly how it works because there's a lot of information out there. And honestly, the majority of lawyers and law firms and immigration specialists out there just like to make things more complicated than they need to be. I'm an entrepreneur. I founded 3 companies. I like things simple. So with that being said, this is the checklist. Now, there might be a few variations of this depending on which country you are from. I am from California. We applied at the San Francisco VFS and it went to the San Francisco consulate. So this is what we had. Yours might be slightly different. I don't know, but this, probably 80% of it is the same across most of it. So I'm going to just explain exactly what each one of these actually is. So first and foremost, your name and your surname, your email, your phone number, your purpose for traveling to Portugal. Obviously, if you need help with these, then I don't know what to tell you. You're screwed. But the national visa application. So that's this. This is the actual application that you would get while you are going to be applying for this. So you put your passport here, you put the surname here, surname at birth, in case you're a female, your name is changed, your first name, and this is all just your information, whether you're married, gender, et cetera, et cetera. Is there anything important in here? Not particularly. Most of you are probably working with a law firm, so they're going to make sure that this is all filled out correctly. But basically, for a digital nomad, you're going to put all of this here. Purpose of stay would be to apply for a visa. If you're not entering in Portugal, you might put that country. And then I think typically you're going to check that you're doing 2 entries. So you're applying for residency. So if you don't know how it works, basically, and just to note this, I've lived in Europe now for 10 years. So I've had a few residence permits in a few different countries, but you are applying for the right to go in and apply for a longer term permit. So the visa grants you the ability to enter the country to apply for the permit. And that is what you get at IMA. And that, if you're lucky, when you get your visa, which is the page in your passport, you'll have your IMA appointment on the visa. If not, you get to start calling them. I don't actually know because I got lucky and I got my appointments. So I don't know how that goes. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a person making videos and making content about this in the hopes that it helps some other people one day. So you get the visa, you then can enter and apply for the longer term residence permit. It only gives you the ability to go in and stay past those 90 days technically, or until your appointment, because they're backlogged. So with that being said, let's move on here. So national visa application filled in, basically fill the whole thing in, talk about where your money's coming from, et cetera, et cetera. Next up on this is 2 identical size passport photos. So go get passport photos taken, have more than 2 copies, have 5 to 7 with you just in case, and 1 will be attached to the actual application. VFS handled this for us. So that's just a note that they attached that to the application itself, made sure it was all lined up properly and how it needed to be. Passport or other travel document. Pretty straightforward. Have a passport. Photocopy of your passport. So they basically bring a black and white, or actually should be colored. Ours was colored. Copy of the passport, just the main page. Otherwise, at VFS, they do have copy machines. They have printers. They can do all sorts of things there, but it is wildly expensive. If you're not prepared, like I kind of wasn't for a few things, it'll probably end up costing you a couple $100s on the spot to get the copies and everything else made properly. So, proof of regular status. If of another nationality than that of the country we're applying for a visa, valid beyond the date of expiry of the visa. God, they always make these things all so complicated. So this was just a driver's license in my case. Like driver's license, copy of that was more than enough. Proof of the regular status. So for us, this was just a driver's license. It's like basically proof that you have a status in the country you are applying from. So driver's license worked fine for us in the US, California. Valid travel insurance. So we use the company called Insuerte. And we picked up this Schengen long stay travel insurance, and it needed to be valid for 1 year. And the main thing was, I think it had to be up to like 30,000 euros, and it needed to have COVID insurance. The actual cost of this was a few $100s, nothing too crazy. Police clearance certificate. So if you're a US citizen, this comes from the Department of Justice, and it is your FBI criminal record. And there's a couple things to know about this. Is one, you have to request this, and this is going to take some time. So you have to go in, you have to get fingerprinted, you fill out the form, it gets sent to the Department of Justice, and they will then give you a digital copy, or alternatively, they will mail you a physical copy to your address. You then must get that apostilled. You get it apostilled at the Department of Justice. FBI gives it to you, you get it apostilled at the Department of Justice. This is not a typical, like you've probably gotten apostilles before at some point or another. This cannot be done at the state level. So you have to send it out to the Department of Justice, and their turnaround time is several weeks. I think it's like a minimum of 3 weeks. So keep that in mind with your time frame, that you need to be giving yourself enough time, but this certificate also cannot be too old. It cannot be, I think, longer than 90 days expired outside of your visa application day. So you need to get the timing on this right. And for us, because we were applying from a different country, we were residing in a different country, but I needed to get the criminal record in the US because that's where we were applying, was very complicated and very tight on the time frame. So that's the one thing that was a bit of a challenge for us that you should definitely be aware of as far as the time frames. The rest of this is all fairly straightforward to get. Okay. Now this is for the digital nomad visa. And just to point out, VFS, this is the first thing they want. They're like, where's your checklist? Where's your checklist? Because they want to just go down exactly this list itself. So in case of employment, so if you are employed with a company where you're allowed to work remote, you need to have your contract, and you need to have a declaration by the employer confirming that you work there and that you have authorization to work remote. That was necessary for us. In the case of self-employment, so I own the company that employs me. We create the jobs, and I'm obviously, on the payroll. So basically, I needed to submit the articles of association, which was easy, just all the original documents that form the company. I needed a contract. So I basically created a contract. I had my operations manager sign it, that I get paid this certain amount, and this is how it comes out of our tax, or out of payroll. And then a document attesting the services. So basically some contracts with some of our clients. So that was enough. And then the proof of average monthly income earned in the last 3 months. So I printed out all my bank statements. I also attached our Stripe documents where it showed more than enough money. So those were the things, and it's going to be different kind of depending on which one of these paths you're going. So in case of employment, you're going to just show your pay stubs, I guess, and show the deposit into your bank account. It's a little bit more complicated in case of self-employment because you need the articles of association, a contract, and an authorization to work remote. So here's what I'll say is there is a huge difference, I would guess, if you're like a freelancer. If you're a freelancer and you have 2 contracts and you make like $2,000 a month, like there's probably a decent chance it might be scrutinized a little bit more. Whereas, a digital nomad, you could also own the country or the company. That's like was my situation. So yeah, that covers all of that. Tax residence certificate for us, a U.S. tax return was sufficient. Obviously we are paying taxes in the U.S., so I just gave them my entire tax return from the last year. And that also probably helped to verify the proof of monthly income and everything else. So this did not apply to me. So that's it. It's really not that much. I'm going to make another video going through exactly how the VFS appointment went, but it is fairly straightforward, this document. Like, this is easy. This is the paperwork you just have to fill out. This is easy. This is easy. This is easy. This is easy. This is the one that's kind of a pain in the butt, I would say. And some of these could be difficult depending on, your situation, but shouldn't be too hard to get. This is the one that you really need to watch the time frames, and you need to make sure you need to realize that it has 2 steps if you're a US citizen, because the second one is a bottleneck and it's slow. Our turnaround time to actually get that from the FBI was only, I think, 2 weeks or so for each of them. And I needed to get it twice because I got the dates mixed up. So anyways, this is a D8 digital nomad checklist. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below.